Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the city of Lublin, precisely the Dominican monastery of Lublin. We will meet with Mr. Martin Dalebout, a Dutchman that moved to Lublin, fell in love with the city, and now worked as a tour guide showing the world Lublin's most crown jewels. We are here at yet another beautiful church on the corridor with these magnificent paintings. I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about the significance of this place and the story behind it.
We are here at the Dominican monastery in Lublin, and this is an old place. The Dominicans arrived around 1250 here in Lublin. They settled themselves at this spot. It was at the edge of the old town, and they stayed. And up to today, this is an active monastery. So we have the fathers living here and running this monastery. I'd like to share actually, Ben, a story with you about this monastery because a horrible crime happened here in 1991.
Right.
And yeah, it's really a nasty story. We have here a basilica attached to the monastery.
Right.
And we had there fragments of the Holy Cross. And those fragments are stolen.
Stolen?
Yeah, literally stolen. And then you can ask yourself straight away the question, who is stealing church art?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. We think it is stolen by a collector.
Collector?
Yeah, literally a collector, because it was definitely a theft on commission. This whole church is full with religious art, gold, etc. You name it, it's there. And the only thing what they stole was a relic holder with pieces of the Holy Cross. So, you know, what do you need to do with it? You cannot do anything with it. So we think literally that a collector has it now in his possession. Another thing could be is that the pieces of the Holy Cross of fragments are ended up in the Ukraine, because there's a legend attached to it stating that they were not destined for Lublin, but for Kiev. And if they end up in Kiev, it would be bring peace to the Ukraine.
Right.
No, in the current situation in the Ukraine, sorry for our neighbors.
Probably didn't work out that well.
No. So I think it is collected by a nuthead. It was a very easy crime to commit, and actually a very painful crime, because what did they do? The thieves went simply to the last mass. They were hiding behind the benches, waiting until the monks had finished their service. They popped up, they went to the chapel, simply picked the lock of the fence in front of the chapel, took the relic holder out, and see and goodbye, and that was it. And it is so painful because the monks were literally at that point discussing installing CCTV, and they voted against it because it was not hospital. Oh yeah, it's painful. So of course you can imagine this crime was heavily investigated, believe me. And there is still on the web an English newspaper article that the prosecutor was stating that he felt like Indiana Jones because we have so many crypts and corridors, not only here under the monastery, but actually through the whole old town of Lublin. It's literally a maze under our feet. So yeah, that was a quirky note. We hope literally that the relics one day come back. So also to the public, please, if you know where the relics are, bring them back. The monks will be more than happy because yeah, they have a significant value here in town.
Right. Outside of it being stolen, I was wondering if you can tell me a little bit about the significance of the relic, like what it represents and why it's so important.
Sorry, cool, of course, I fill it in. The relics are so important because are the real fragments of the cross Jesus died. It are the real fragments of the Holy Cross Jesus died on Golgotha. So it are real pieces of wood who are literally brought over already in the Middle Ages to Lublin. And they have a significant spiritual value and have also a power because often they saved Lublin. We had a great fire here at the beginning of the 1700s. They saved the old town by carrying the relics through the old town in procession. Lublin was bombarded in 1939 at the beginning of the Second World War. The Dominicans saved the abbey and this part of the old town by going outside of the monastery complex with the relics and organizing a procession. And we believe they stopped in this way the bombs, and you know they protected their monastery, their property. Also, it's handy to know that the monastery was shut down for a while during the occupation, or actually the dividation, this is a better word, of Poland. The Russians were ruling town here. This was the only moment that the monks were not living here. They were literally sent to Siberia. The show was closed down here. They made military barracks out of it, and yeah, the whole place was plundered. So everything of value was taken out. Even the simplest things like the metals, you name it, it's gone. And thanks God, it is rebuilt.
Do you think you can tell me a little bit more about the Great Fire you just mentioned?
Yes, of course, but then I would love to take you with me to the castle, to our museum in Lublin. There's a lovely painting, and there I will share the story with you.
All right, perfect.
Cool, let's go.
The Basilica of Saint Stanislaus and the Dominican Monastery in Lublin are some of the oldest institutions in Lublin. The Dominicans moved to Lublin in the early 13th century, built their first church in 1253. So can you tell me a little bit about this painting right here, and what does that have to do with the relic of the Holy Cross?
Okay, we have a lovely legend in Lublin. We have many of them. And this painting refers to the Second Great Fire in Lublin. On the 2nd of June 1719, it was a very warm day, a thunderstorm came over town. Lightning hit the rooftop in the former Jewish section of town. And within no time, the whole Jewish section of town was burning. So you can imagine, it was an inferno. Yeah, so rabbis were praying, the people were in a frenzy, and it was really terrible. And the flames were moving towards the old town. For your information, the Jewish section of town, the Jewish quarter of town was built around the castle. So those flames were moving towards the town hill, and the Dominicans felt obligated to act, the monks. And they decided okay, we take the relics of the Holy Cross, and into procession, we go towards the fire. And when they were moving with the procession towards the castle, they needed to pass the cross cathedral. And the moment they stepped out of the cross cathedral, rain poured down. A huge, tremendous amount of rain poured down. The flames went out. And up till today, the Dominicans are stating that this was an act of God, an intervention of God. So God simply saved the old town of Lublin. And that is depicted here in this lovely painting. So in the painting, you can see the former St. Michael's Church. It is a huge, huge church. You see there the castle. In the corner, you see the flames under the castle. And you see there Dominican monks passing the gate and going towards the fire. And of course, yeah, the rain which followed poured down the flames. This is, in their opinion, yeah, literally a miracle going on. Myself, I have a bit another opinion about it. Yeah, and I'm Dutch, so I'm very down to earth. I think the fact that the fire went out had to do with the structure of the buildings at the time.
The structures?
Yeah, because the Jewish section of town had less money. So the buildings were mainly made out of wood and straw. While the old town was built out of bricks and mortar, and we had even the city walls at the time. So yeah, that definitely can...
Insulated it from the fire, maybe.
And could have saved the old town. On the other hand, I've already had a couple of guests during my tours who simply stated, Martin, you know, if you have lightning in a thunderstorm, rain will follow. Yeah, I rest my case.
But it also has a very interesting symbology, because you see people of different religion going out and helping one another, even in their own ways.
Definitely, because there was no segmentation about religions too much. Of course, historically, the Jews needed to live outside of town. The Jews came in to Poland between 1500 and 1600, and by law they were not allowed to settle themselves in the old towns, so within the walls. So they lived a bit in suburbs outside of the walls. But yeah, of course, people were integrating with each other, they were trading together, and there was harmony.
As we can see, Lublin is one of the oldest cities filled with historical monuments, but the beating heart of the city, the Lublin Castle, is right behind me. The castle was a prison for over a century when Poland was under occupation, but today it serves a positive purpose of being the city's main museum. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.